Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Barry here with the Scryguys, and today we're doing another $100 deck tech with Coram, the Undertaker. Let's get to it. Coram, the Undertaker is a 1 and Jund commander from Modern Horizons 3 commander set, legendary creature, human warrior. Coram, the Undertaker gets plus X plus 0, where X is the greatest power among creature cards in all graveyards. Whenever Coram attacks, each player mills a card. During each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a spell from among the cards that were put there from the library this turn. It's going to be a super quick video for you guys, but this is going to show you the general gist of what I'm really trying to do with this deck. And if you want to check out the deck list down below, go ahead and check it out on our Mox field. It's really awesome. I separated everything into categories, and so you'll be able to kind of see where the lines of plays are. So let's get into it. Our graveyards. I forgot to find the gif of like the Bugs Bunny and this the you know the Russian thing. But let's check it out. So we have cards like Ghoul Caller's Bell, which is a 1-mana artifact. Each player puts a top card of his or her library into the graveyard. Really nice, clean cut, and super cheap to play and cheap in price. We also have Codex Shredder if we want to target somebody that's playing bigger spells, like maybe we're like mid to late game and we're looking for just bombs and there's an Eldrazi player over there. You never know, you might be able to get the new Ulamog from them, so we get to cast that before they do. And if we need to, we can go ahead and pay 5 to return target card from the graveyard to our hand. Really good right there. And then we have creature like Eye Collector, which is going to be 1 black creature fairy flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, each player puts a top card of their library into their graveyard. So really, for this deck, I was looking for a lot of symmetrical effects. Obviously with Codex Shredder, that's more targeted, but generally you want to go ahead and be able to get people milling incrementally as much as possible as soon as Coram is out and able to have the mana to play cards from everyone else's library. And probably the most expensive card I think in this deck will be Altar of the Brood. I mean, it's just too good to not want to put in here. For 1 mana, whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts a top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Totally worth it. I think this is like, I don't know, 20% of the actual budget of the deck, but it's just really good. And but if you guys can find like damaged versions of this card, they're probably gonna go for around for 4 to 5. I think right now this card is hovering between $10 to $15. So yeah, definitely. There's other cards you could find this in more budget ways, but I just think this is just the best, especially when you get it turn 1. You can kind of start milling. There's a lot of recursion in this deck. There's a good amount of recursion in this deck, so we'll be able to take advantage of our graveyards the most before anyone else can. You know, some people kind of keep sketchy hands and they're like, oh, maybe if I grab a land. Sometimes that doesn't work out, and because if you're playing against cards like this, you definitely don't want to run into that. But Undertaking Mirrored. This is going to be self-milling strategies for us, but we're going to be able to take advantage of that as well. Crop Sigil also gives us a choice. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put the top card of your library into the graveyard. So it's a May ability. Maybe we're not feeling like milling right now, so this is definitely it. But then it also has the ability for it to sacrifice itself for 3 mana. As long as we have Delirium, we can return up to 1 target creature and up to 1 target land from our graveyard into our hand. Activate it if you have Delirium. Ripples of Undeath is a new card from Modern Horizons 3. Pretty like nice and cheap as well, and cheap for the mana cost. For 1 and a black enchantment, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards, then you may pay 1 and 3 life. If you do, put a card from among those cards into your hand. Really great that this doesn't say permanent, it just says any card, so it could be instant, sorcery, artifact, whatever. It's just pretty nice and flexible. I mean, 3 life is a lot, but how many of you guys have taken advantage of Sylvan Library and paid 8 just to draw an extra card? But yeah, and so this is going to be great too, because we have cards like Anger, things that work in the graveyard, or like I don't know if we have anything flashback in this deck, but yeah, it's just great. It's going to give us a chance to see more cards. And we have Perpetual Timepiece, which is 2 mana artifact. You can tap it, mill 2 cards, or you can go ahead and shuffle, pay 2, exile it, and then reshuffle your deck or your graveyard back into your deck, just in case you're like close to decking out. We also have cards like Tato Farmer from the Fallout set, 2 in a green creature, zombie, mutant, peasant, has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, you may get 2 rad counters, so we can give ourselves 2 rad counters to go ahead and mill. But the most important part of this is that we can tap it and put a target land in a graveyard that was milled this turn onto the battlefield under your control. So sometimes, hey, some of your friends might have more expensive land bases. You want to pick up a guy's cradle from someone else's graveyard, go ahead and do that with Tato Farmer. Old Red Scene is great. It's a nice little value engine in this section. For 1 and Golgari, when it enters the battlefield or at the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. If it's a land, you get a treasure. If it's a creature card, you get a creature. And if it's a non-creature, you get a blood token, which allows you to discard and draw a card. So just really nice and flexible in this deck. And this deck is, I think, running around 36 lands. So for it to be able to generate us a decent amount of treasures, hopefully, is enough for me to justify it to be in here. And we have for Kagha, Shadow Archdruid, 2 Engolgar, legendary creature elf druid. When it attacks, it gains Death Touch, and then you mill 2 cards. Once during each of your turns, you may play a land or cast a permanent from among the cards in your graveyard that were put there from your library this turn. So just almost like a mini version of Coram the Undertaker, giving us the ability to play things, but it's a little bit more restrictive. It's only permanents, you can't cast any spells, and it's only from your graveyard, not your opponent's. So, but just a nice little secondary type of commander in here as well. Arise. Sorry, you solo leveling fans will hate me for that. I'm sorry. But this is going to be our recursion, not only creature recursion but also our land recursion. So we have cards like Aftermath Analyst for 2 mana. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. So it's also a little self-mill, but we can pay 4 mana, 3 and a green, to sacrifice it and return all land cards from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Ramanov Excavator is a nice way for us to recur our lands as well from the graveyard. I believe we don't have too many extra land drops in here, but just to get this out onto the battlefield, nice little budget Crucible Worlds is really helpful. And we have World Shaper, who just does the same thing. It self mills us, so it's pulling double duty too, because it self mills us, and when it dies, we get to go ahead and return all lands from our graveyard to the battlefield tap. We're going to be looking at our creature recursion now too. We have Felled into the Third Path. That's kind of been always a pet card of mine. But 1 and 2 red, legendary creature, Human Artificer, pay 2 into red. Create a token that's a copy of target creature in your graveyard, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gains haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So really nice way for us to possibly recur things like the cards, all the cards that we've had, all the creatures that we have in this deck, mainly for the next slide. But yeah, it just gives a second chance at getting all these other creatures. We have Chainer, Nightmare Adept, which also is for 2 and Rakdos, legendary creature, human minion. Discard a card, you make cast a creature spell from your graveyard this turn, activate only once per turn. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't cast from the hand, it gains haste until end of turn. So again, a nice way for us to recur creatures from our graveyard. And then we have the OG Chainer, which allows us to pay 3 mana and pay 3 swamps and pay 3 life. Put a target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, so we can go ahead and start picking off our opponent's creatures. Maybe there's a Dockside, maybe there's an Eternal Witness, maybe there's a Displacer Kitten that can possibly have us go off. There's just so much there that we're going to be milling our opponents so much that there's going to be so much there for us to really pick and choose from, that Trainer can go absolutely nuts. Next we have cards like Eternal Witness, which is going to allow us to get anything from the graveyard back into our hand. Same with Honest Rutstein, but this is just more for creatures, but it's also a mana reducer as well, because creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It doesn't matter if it's from the hand, from the exile, or from the graveyard. And we also have Savvy Trader, which is a new card, I believe, from Outlaws. 3 and a green. When Savvy Trader enters the battlefield, exile target permanent from your graveyard. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. And the spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 1 less to cast. Really nice. It's a mana reducer for anything that we're trying to play from graveyards. And then it also helps us recur maybe one possible combo permanent piece that we need that's in the graveyard, and we're trying to save that thing for later, right? And Tormund the Desecrated, probably my like favorite card in the deck, just because we're gonna be, if we're able to constantly keep playing things from the graveyards and all that stuff, then we're gonna be able to make 2/2 zombie tokens all the time. The cool thing about this is, like, when we have Coram out, we play a land, we get a 2/2 zombie token, and then we cast a spell, we get a 2/2 zombie token. So it's just really nice to build up a decent sized board with this when you're creating 2 zombie tokens per turn. Yeah, it's a 4/2. It's probably gonna die if you amass too much value from this. We also have, obviously you saw, we have the recursions portion of the deck too. So we use Tato Farmer to get another land, that's another zombie, and then we get Rutstein out or Eternal Witness out or something like that. There's a lot there that would be able to create a decent sized board with this. And really the final portion of this deck, I just wanted to put at least like one budget combo combo portion or whatever combo thing in this deck, just to really sort of close out the game if you need to. This deck is pretty heavily reliant on your opponent's decks to really accrue and outvalue them from the table. So I wanted to at least put one really good win condition in here, and it's a really solid and budget friendly one. But we have Twin Flame and Dual Caster Mage. I mean, if this resolves on the board, you're basically gonna win, because you're just gonna make all the Dual Caster Mages with Twin Flame, and they'll keep copying each other, giving each other haste, and then go ahead and swing out an attack. I really just wanted to have just one solid win condition for this deck, and this combo is like, I don't know, $5 at the most, if that. I think Twin Flame is $5 by itself, but I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, I know you got Dual Caster Mages just roaming around in your house. Somewhere in a box that you could just find. I mean, it's also like a 50-cent card. So, but yeah, that's going to be the end for this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely check out the deck list to see the rest of the deck. We have, you know, obviously our ramp situation is there. Everything is categorized for you, so you can go ahead and see how the deck is built and everything. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we're so close to 500, so I just want to thank everybody that's joining us, that's subscribing to us. We appreciate you, and you know, yeah, have a good day.